Slamdown is sponsored by Body Slam and Jam and WWE Smack Talk. Welcome to another episode of Slamdown Live. Today's going to be covering Raw. Now, I'm actually really impressed with Raw again. We've seen, how can it be the polite way of putting this? We've seen SmackDown be absolutely ram-raided. We've seen a lot of their main stars have all been drafted over. Now, a lot of people are panicking about this. I'm not. You know, you got to think there's a lot on Raw that SmackDown could draft over. There's a few people that's not on Raw that could go into SmackDown. Now, the way I'm looking at it, it seems like they're trying to do the SmackDown as the alternative brand, not having both brands similar. Because if both brands were similar, it wouldn't work. But they're trying to try different things now, and that's the feeling I'm getting from this, that they want to be have the brands completely different. The only one thing that I do hope is going to happen is that JBL gets fired. I think, you know, especially with this Be a Star campaign and then anti-bullying, you can't really keep a partnership like that when you've got bullying going on in the WWE. You know, if you look at Bill DeMont's situation, where all the stuff came out about him, you know, he wasn't fired, he resigned, but still, he chose to leave. And I think JBL should do the same thing, which I don't think he will. And I've personally, he needs to be fired. You know, in this day and age, he can't do the things he's doing. You know, Morrow's probably had a bit, I won't say a breakdown, but, you know, with his mental health now, because of JBL, and it's not right. You know, and anybody that stands up for Morrow or anything like that, they get blocked by his Twitter. Now, for me, that ain't right. You know, the WWE seriously need to look on what's going on. But we already know that, you know, we have wrestlers that are bullies. You know, Randy Orton, John Cena, you know, a lot of guys have come out and pointed their fingers at them. It's a sorry state when you've got your backstage Raw star bullying each other and things like this. You know, really, there should be a team working together and, you know, helping to improve the WWE brand. But obviously, we know in the real world, not everything's perfect. But with JBL, I think he's gone too far. And it's not fair what he's been doing, and he should be reprimanded on that. Like I said, I don't think he will, but he should. You know, it's... I'm trying to think of a better way to sort of explain it, but I don't think there is a better way of explaining it, to be honest. It's just simple fact, JBL needs to go. I'm just waiting for the audience to build a little bit here. Let everything build up, so make sure no one misses out. Me covering everything on Raw. It's definitely improving. It's making me look forward to Raw now, and I'll explain that more when I get into the trades. Just posting this link out. You know, make sure links out everywhere. Right, that's all done. Right. Why don't we dig into Raw? Just a few adjustments. There we go. Right, at the start of the show, we saw John Cena and Nikki Bella. From the first angle, you would swear it was them. Now, as they got down to when the camera zoomed up to them, you could see it was The Miz and Maurice. Now, for me, they've been my favourite part of SmackDown. You know, their slapstick. The Miz has improved as a performer, also with his mic skills. So you knew he was going to go up to Raw. You know, they were going to pick the best of SmackDown to go to Raw to try and improve Raw's reputation. Now, obviously, it looks like they're going to build a feud with Dean Ambrose, because Dean Ambrose came out acting like he thought The Miz was the real John Cena. They're slagging off The Miz, and then we see him hit the dirty deeds. Now, a lot of people are saying Kevin Owens is going to go to SmackDown, title first, title and title. I think something differently. I think we're going to see the UK Championship go to SmackDown. Now, the reason I think this, with Raw having the cruiserweights, I think SmackDown will go with the UK division. So then they've got the UK division on there. They've got the WWE title, and then they've got the tag and the women's. That's what I think is going to happen. And I think with Raw, I think they might merge them both titles. I can't see them keeping them separate, but I think that's what's going to happen. I think because they are very similar titles and they want to have each brand be slightly different, that's the way I feel it's going to go with that. I can't see it going any other way. But yeah, that's what I personally believe. And also then it showcased the UK stars, but I also think they're going to have the UK show on the network as well. So that way people who watch them on SmackDown will watch the UK show, you know, like they do with 205 and the WWE show. That's what I think is going to happen. After that, we saw the Revival, that's it, took on New Day, Big E and Xavier Woods. Now, we know Kofi Kingston is injured at the minute, so they did have a blow-up Kofi Kingston to add the bit of the comedy. Again, it was another solid match. The Revival hit a double team move that was just amazing. Absolutely amazing. The timing on it was brilliant. The way they hit the Shattered Machine, where Woods was airborne, was perfect. I do think this is either going to be the split up of the New Day. Honestly believe that. I think that's the way it's going. I think, you know, them hosting WrestleMania was their big showpiece, and now I think they're going to probably fall to the wayside. I can't see them doing much more with New Day. You know, I can't see much more going from that. One thing that I would like to see is if they keep Rollins on Raw and Roman Reigns, you've got all 3 members of the Shield. All 3 members of the Shield are faces. Now, they could possibly put all 3 together. I honestly can believe that's what will probably end up happening. I think we possibly could see the club on SmackDown, because I do believe Carl Anderson and Gallows will be transferred over to SmackDown. So we could see the club come back together and a build up for SummerSlam where we have the club taking on the Shield. As a fan perspective to this, love to see it. Absolutely would love to see it. And I think that's the way it's going to go. We can remain positive to that. Bizarrely, we saw Kurt Hawkins on Raw. Now, me personally, I would have loved to see Kurt Hawkins be released. He bores me. That to me, he's just... Jobber's not the right term. I know people use jobber all the time. It's not actually the right term, because they are being paid, and it, like I said, it is scripted. So I don't really want to call him a jobber, but let's just say the way he's being used incorrectly, or he's been used as a bottom card. I think if he left, I don't think it'd bother anybody. He was better on the indie scenes. I just think he's run his day. Especially when you've got people like Shelton Benjamin that can come in and actually do something. I think Kurt Hawkins is just a waste of a talent. We did see Big Show knocking Kurt Hawkins out, and that was it. We saw backstage. We saw Neville trying to get in Perkins' head, saying that because of Austin Aries, Perkins has been pushed down. You know, trying to play the whole mind games, which we saw really well, which led into the match. And we saw the TJ Perkins taking on Austin Aries. We saw Perkins manage to get the roll-up victory thanks to Neville. Next thing you know, TJ Perkins started stomping down on Austin Aries. So they're obviously putting the heel turn on Perkins. They'll probably lead that to a rivalry with Perkins and Austin Aries. But how's that going to work when you've got Austin Aries, Neville at Payback? But okay, I'll go with it. We saw Raw General Manager Kurt Angle reveals Seth Rollins' fate, revealing that he doesn't want Rollins to leave. And then Rollins basically said he's not going to be a coward and duck out. He's going to stay there and everything else, which we could still see him being dragged to SmackDown. I don't think he will be, but it could be. We saw Nia Jax taking on Charlotte Flair, where we saw Nia Jax just beat down on Charlotte Flair. We also saw Danny. I keep calling her Danny, didn't I? Dania. I'm just going to call her Brooke. We saw Brooke refuse to align herself with Emma, as people do know him previously. Them two have tag teamed together. What else? One thing I do think Charlotte Flair or Sasha Banks will be drafted over to SmackDown. I can see that happening. We saw Finn Balor taking on Jinder Mahal. We did get side bits that announced that Heath Slater and Rhino have been drafted to Raw, and also Apollo Crews is on Raw. But it was quite a quick match. We saw Finn Balor get the victory, and then on the screen, Bray Wyatt giving a message for Finn Balor. and he was saying he's bringing his House of Horrors match with him to Raw, exclusive event, Payback, against Randy Orton. So, don't know how that's going to work. We'll have to wait and see on that one. And we don't know what's going to happen with Eric Rowan. A lot of unanswered stuff that's going on, but we'll find out when when SmackDown comes on later tonight. We saw Sami Zayn taking on The Miz, match made by Kurt Angle. As Sami Zayn was trying to talk to Kurt, then The Miz tried to talk to Kurt. Kurt just got fed up, booked a match, in which we saw Sami Zayn get the victory. After that, we saw Roman Reigns sitting down with Michael Cole. Then he was attacked by Braun Strowman. Now, this is the piece of Raw I loved. Loved it so much, and the fans were loving it as well. We saw him thrown against the wall, thrown on the floor, slammed down, beat so bad that he was put on a stretcher. Then Braun Strowman flipped the stretcher over. Then he was put in the back of an ambulance. Braun Strowman flipped the ambulance over. We haven't seen stuff like that on Raw for a long time. We've seen quite a few little bits on SmackDown with Dean Ambrose and Baron Corbin going backstage and stuff, but we haven't seen it often. We saw Raw Tag Team Champions, the Hardys, teaming up with Cesaro and Sheamus, taking on Luke Gallows, Kyle Anderson, and the Shining Stars. When I saw that Luke Gallows and Kyle Anderson were going to be teaming with the Shining Stars, I knew exactly who was going to win. You could tell the Hardys, Cesaro and Sheamus were going to win this. It was actually a really good match. I've got a feeling that Matt Hardy might become broken and go against Bray Wyatt. We all want to see it. We did see the Drifter on the staging of Raw as well. So it looks like he's been called up to Raw. We saw Sasha Banks, Bayley in the ring talking. Next thing you know, Alexa Bliss music hits. Alexa Bliss comes down. After that, we see Mickie James calm down. All announcing they're on Raw. Then Nia Jax comes down to dominate. Alexa Bliss gets out of the way. She knocks down Mickie James, knocks down Bayley and Sasha Banks. After that, we seen Intercontinental Champion Dean Ambrose taking on US Champion Kevin Owens, where we see Dean Ambrose get the win. And we see Chris Jericho coming down, who hits Owens with a Codebreaker. So I'm surprised Chris Jericho's come back so soon. I think when they get hit to Payback, I think that'd be the last we'll see of Chris Jericho. Because he wants to do this stuff with Fonzie. And he did say after WrestleMania that his time's going to be done. I'll say it's a good draft pick for Raw. But I hope SmackDown picks some heavyweights and some better guys to go on their brand. Don't think there's much more to say but that. I'm intrigued to see who SmackDown pull and what dynamic it's going to have for SmackDown. Because Raw has pulled all the SmackDown's big hitters. Let's be honest. I am happy AJ hasn't moved. That's the one positive for me, that AJ hasn't moved. I would like to see Finn Balor possibly go over to SmackDown, the club, so you can rebuild the club, and then you've got Finn Balor, and you can see Finn Balor and Shinsuke Nakamura team up, and loads of possibilities from different angles. I would have liked to see Randy Orton gone onto Raw, and us have like Seth Rollins, Finn Balor, because then you've got that hybrid, I call them, the ones that fly all over the rings but are high performers. So you could have like Seth Rollins and Finn Balor, and then Finn Balor against AJ against Seth Rollins. The matchups you could have would be endless, and I think that could have made SmackDown a real powerhouse. But like I said, we're going to have to wait and see. I'm looking forward. I'm just trying to think of who else tag team wise. We could probably see Enzo Amore and Big Kaz go over, possibly, but to me, that's about it. But don't forget, tweet us on Slamdown Live on your opinions on who you think will be going to SmackDown. I will be live tomorrow at 9 p.m. GMT doing the SmackDown review. So this has been me, your host, Ashley Friend, and I'll see you again tomorrow.